What's up, CHFFL? Back for a second day in a row talking about off-season rule changes. Got a kind of big one today because it's sort of a two-parter. These things have to go together. One is the playoff tournament, which I threw out there last year. You know, I want to get bowl week going. And two, how that's going to be the determinant of our draft order going forward. Lottery is out the door starting today. And this is another rule that is just happening unless everybody hates it. I don't think it's controversial yet. In a future video it might be when I change payouts, but that'll come. All right, so end of season standings, everything's staying the same with who gets into the playoffs, who wins a championship. It's still based on your overall record, then head-to-head is a tiebreaker, then total points is a tiebreaker. In the future, we probably should add another one in case, God forbid, two teams have the same number of points. Three playoff teams from each conference. One gets a bye. The winners out of the people who make the playoffs, the top three overall slots are going to be determined. So none of that changes. But ESPN's always been kind of weird with how they determine the rest. So you get 1 and 2, obviously the championship game and the loser. 3 is the winner of the two people eliminated in the second round. 4 is the loser. But then for spots 5 through 12, it's always been pretty arbitrary. So I wanted to make an actual bracket that we're going to use. So let me bring that up here. It's going to be big. And I think this is a little cleaner than the hand-drawn one I did last year. This is just the arrows are hand-drawn. So what you have is your 3 rounds of playoffs. Up here is the actual playoffs, people who made the playoffs. Down here is the losers bracket, people who did not make the playoffs. Your black lines are when a team wins. Your blue lines are when a team loses, going from round to round into bowl week. And then the final rank is just determined from where you were and whether you won or lost the game. So if you follow here, you could be, let's say you just made the playoffs, you're the 6th seed. You could win like normal. If you win, you'll go into the championship. If you lose, you go to the runner-up game. But if you lose the first round, you're going to come down here. We'll follow the grid. And you're going to play the winner of this game between the 2 best teams to not make the playoffs. If you win that game, you're right back playing for 5th place to prove that you were a top half team. So this is a little might be a little complicated at first. I think this makes a lot more sense than the one I had last year, like I said. So I'll make sure everybody can see this. But for now, let's move on. And I'm assuming that that concept comes across. It's not going to be anything but a little extra work for me. Back to the slides. This is a note for me in the future that, so you have kind of in your conference 3 teams make it, but for the purposes of the playoff bracket, the second best team in each conference, it's going to matter whether they had a better overall record or not, but that's just something I'll worry about. Sorry. Okay. Pros of this, I think it's fun. I think a big emphasis of my off-season rule changes has been that I want teams to have a reason to keep playing all the way to the end of the season. It's going to make the playoffs better. And we can use, now that we're going to have 1 through 12 final standings that are firm and make sense, we can use that for new rule changes, like the draft order. Not going to be done by a lottery anymore. It's going to be determined by those final 1 through 12 rank. And I'll make the distinction in a second of what draft order priority is. But this next slide, stick with me. This is one of my I have to explain it things. So what is going to be the draft order priority? Take the 6 people who did not make the playoffs, see how they do in the tournament, and their final ranking in order are the first 6 teams for a draft priority. So the 6 teams in the losers bracket, how they finish in order. The next 6 teams are going to be the winners bracket, how they finished in reverse order. So that basically the champion is going to have the last draft priority. Which that makes sense. The reason that it's just not the entire thing reversed is because you don't want people to tank. So if you don't make the playoffs, it's in your best interest to stick around, play good games, and win so that you can have a better draft pick next year. If you make the playoffs, then you're going to get a worse pick anyway, so it really shouldn't matter. So let's, real fast, I wanted to go back. Just an example, so say you're the 9th seed, you win here, you go up. Oh, sorry, I'm using my mouse cursor. You're the 9th seed, you go up here, and if you win out, anyone 9th or 7th through 10th seed, then you're going to have the #1 draft priority. Or you could win, then lose, come down here, and probably somebody else from the losers bracket is going to be above you. I hope that makes sense. That's one I didn't really know how to explain other than with my words. So I hope that comes across. Now, to make it one more little knot in the rope, draft order priority is actually what we're determining. So let's say you are that 9th seed, you win all 3 of your playoff games, so you have the #1 spot for draft priority. That does not mean you have to have the #1 pick if you don't want it. If you like picking in the middle or at the end, you just get first dibs on whichever spot you want. So I think that's pretty self-explanatory. I really am hoping that this whole video did. I have a couple of other possible changes that I'm going to want to do off of this. One that I talked about last year is a payout change. I just didn't want this video to get too long, so I'll go into that in another one. I also thought it would be fun if, since the last week is a bowl week with the championship, and then I have it as the toilet bowl, it doesn't have to stay there. But I thought you could pick, if you win the game, what the name will be next year. So we get there and it's like the Parker Bowl because he won it last year and that's what he wanted to call it. So that could be fun. I am really excited for this. I know this is a long video and maybe you guys don't care that much, but I hope at least a few of you think that this is fun. This is something that is going to happen, and I'm going to be out of town this weekend, but I'm still going to be working on videos. So look forward to that too. Thanks for sticking around to the end. We'll see you.